Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it. Then let's evaluate together. The rain hammered down like it was trying to drown the whole damn world. Outside the rickety wooden cabin on the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, the wind howled through the pines, rattling the loose shutters. Inside, Maya Jackson, all of 18, stood dripping wet, her cheap Walmart uniform clinging to her skin like a second layer of regret. Her dark curls plastered to her face, framing those fierce brown eyes that could cut through steel. Across from her, Henry Grayson, 60 years old and built like he could still take on a linebacker, peeled off his soaked jacket, revealing a white dress shirt stuck to his broad chest. His silver hair was a mess, his sharp blue eyes locked on her. "You're crazy," Maya said, voice trembling, not from the cold but from the adrenaline still pumping through her veins. "I thought I'd lost you out there." Henry stepped closer, boots squishing on the warped floorboards. "Never, kid," he rasped, his southern drawl thick as molasses. "You're my everything." Before she could argue, he was on her. His hands, rough, warm, and steady, grabbed her waist, pulling her against him. Her breath hitched as their lips crashed together, a hungry, desperate kiss that tasted of rain and relief. She shoved him back toward the creaky bed in the corner, her fingers clawing at his shirt buttons. Fabric ripped. Hers or his, she didn't care. His hands slid under her uniform top, tearing it off in one swift motion, exposing her smooth, cocoa-brown skin to the dim glow of the lantern. She gasped as he lifted her, her legs wrapping around his hips, and they fell onto the mattress in a tangle of limbs. The storm outside was nothing compared to what was happening in that room. Henry's lips trailed down her neck, his stubble scraping her skin, igniting sparks that made her arch into him. She yanked at his belt, her hands trembling with need, and he growled low in his throat, a sound that sent heat pooling deep in her belly. When their bodies finally met, it was raw, messy, and loud, her moans drowned out by the thunder, his ragged breaths hot against her ear. She rode him hard, nails digging into his shoulders, claiming him as much as he claimed her. "Don't you ever leave me," she panted, and he gripped her tighter, whispering, "Never again, baby." They collapsed together, sweat-slicked and breathless, the rain still pounding the roof like it was applauding. Maya lay across his chest, tracing the lines of his weathered skin, feeling his heartbeat steady under her palm. This wasn't just sex. This was survival, a fire forged through hell. But how the hell did they get here? 6 months earlier, Maya Jackson was just another broke kid trying to scrape by in Atlanta's roughest neighborhood. The air always smelled like fried grease and exhaust fumes, the kind of place where dreams went to die behind barred windows and chain-link fences. She lived in a cramped apartment with her mom, Linda, and her little brother, Jamal, in a building that shook every time the MARTA bus roared by. At 18, she was already the backbone of the family, pulling double shifts at the Walmart on Cascade Road. The job sucked. The fluorescent lights buzzed like dying flies. The aisles stank of spilled soda and cheap bleach. And the customers treated her like she was invisible. Or worse, like trash. She'd stand there in her blue Walmart vest, scanning groceries with cracked fingernails, her feet aching in knockoff sneakers. Her dark skin glistened with sweat by the end of a shift, her curls stuffed under a hairnet that never quite held them back. But those eyes, big, brown, and sharp as a blade, told you she wasn't broken yet. She'd plaster on a fake smile for the paycheck, dreaming of a day she wouldn't have to count pennies to keep the lights on. Linda was a mess, 45 going on 80, with a smoker's cough and a habit of drowning her sorrows in cheap vodka. She hadn't been the same since Maya's dad walked out a decade ago, leaving them with nothing but debt and a kid to raise. Jamal, 10 years old and skinny as a rail, was the only thing keeping Maya going. He'd sit on their sagging couch, scribbling in a notebook, talking about becoming an astronaut someday. "You gotta get me to the moon, sis," he'd say, flashing that gap-toothed grin. She'd ruffle his hair and promise she would, even if it meant scanning canned goods till her hands fell off. That's where Henry Grayson came in. He wasn't supposed to be at Walmart that day. A millionaire real estate tycoon didn't belong in a discount store, not with his tailored gray suit and leather shoes that clicked on the linoleum like they owned the place. He'd come to Southwest Atlanta to scout some land for a project. Something about condos or a strip mall Maya didn't know and didn't care. But when he rolled his card up to her register, everything changed. She was ringing up his stuff, a bottle of bourbon, some batteries, a pack of gum, when she caught him staring. Not the creepy leer she got from drunk guys at closing time, but something deeper, like he'd seen a ghost. His blue eyes widened, his jaw went slack, and for a second, she thought he might keel over right there. "You okay, mister?" she asked, snapping her gum, one eyebrow cocked. He blinked, shook his head like he was waking up. Yeah. Sorry, kid. You remind me of someone." "Uh-huh," she muttered, sliding his bourbon into a plastic bag. "That'll be $28.47. He handed her a crisp 50, but his eyes never left her face. She gave him his change, and he lingered, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "What's your name?" he asked, voice low and gravelly, tinged with that old-school Georgia drawl. "Maya," she said, wary. "Why?" He didn't answer right away, just nodded like he was filing it away. "Henry Grayson," he said finally, tipping his head. "You take care, Maya." She watched him walk out, his broad shoulders cutting through the crowd, and figured that was that. Weird old dude, probably loaded and lonely. She didn't have time to think about it. Her shift was ending, and she had to catch the bus home before the rain started. But Henry wasn't done with her. 2 days later, he was back, waiting by the exit when she clocked out at 10 p.m. The parking lot was half empty, sodium lights buzzing overhead, casting long shadows on the cracked asphalt. She stopped short, clutching her backpack, her heart kicking up a notch. "What the hell you want?" she snapped, hand hovering near the pepper spray in her pocket. He raised his hands, palms out. "Easy, kid. I ain't here to hurt you. I got a proposition." She snorted. "Yeah, I bet you do." "Not like that," he said quick, a flush creeping up his neck. "Your family's in trouble, right? Debts piling up, some guy named Darius King breathing down your neck?" Her stomach dropped. How did he know about Darius? The loan shark had been hounding Linda for months, ever since she borrowed cash to cover Jamal's hospital bills last year. "What's it to you?" she asked, voice tight. "I can make it go away," he said, stepping closer. "All of it. The debt, the threats. I'll pay for your brother's meds, get your mom out of the hole. But there's a catch." She narrowed her eyes. "What catch?" "Marry me." Maya laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed across the lot. "You're out of your damn mind, man. I ain't some Walmart clearance item you can just pick up." "I know it sounds crazy," he said, voice steady despite her glare. "But I've got reasons, good ones. You won't owe me a thing, except your name on a paper. Think about Jamal. Think about sleeping without worrying who's going to kick your door in." She froze, his words hitting her like a punch. Jamal's cough had been getting worse, the bills stacking up on the kitchen counter. Darius had left a note under their door last week. "Pay up, or I'll take what's mine." She'd seen the way he looked at her, like she was a prize he could claim. "Why me?" she demanded, crossing her arms. "What's in it for you?" Henry hesitated, his jaw tightening. "You look like someone I used to know," he said finally. someone I couldn't save. I ain't letting that happen again. She stared at him, this rich white guy with haunted eyes, offering her a lifeline wrapped in a straitjacket. It was insane. She should have walked away, caught her bus, forgotten his face. But then she thought of Jamal's wheezy breathing, Linda's empty bottles, the fear that kept her up at night. I need to think, she muttered, turning on her heel. Don't take too long, he called after her. Darius ain't the waiting type. She didn't look back, but his words stuck with her, heavy as the humid Atlanta air. How did a Walmart cashier end up tangled with a millionaire? And what the hell was she about to walk into? Hey, if you're wondering why Henry picked Maya out of nowhere, stick around. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think might happen next. The fluorescent lights of the Atlanta City Hall buzzed like a swarm of angry bees, casting a sickly glow over the linoleum floor. Maya Jackson stood in the middle of the cramped room, feeling like she'd been dropped into someone else's life. Her white dress, picked up for $20 at a thrift store near Walmart, itched against her skin, the cheap lace scratching her arms. She shifted on her feet, sneakers squeaking, her dark curls barely tamed under a borrowed veil. At 18, she was supposed to be worrying about prom or college applications, not standing here, about to marry a man old enough to be her grandpa. Henry Grayson loomed beside her, all 6'2" of him, looking like he'd stepped out of a boardroom instead of a wedding. His black suit was crisp, his silver hair slicked back, and those piercing blue eyes stayed fixed on the clerk, droning through the vows. The room smelled of stale coffee and bureaucracy, with a couple of bored witnesses, a janitor and a secretary, slumped in folding chairs. Maya's mom, Linda, was there too, perched on the edge of a seat, her hands twisting a crumpled tissue. Jamal, her 10-year-old brother, sat next to her, kicking his legs, his too big dress shirt slipping off one shoulder. "This guy gonna be my dad now?" he'd whispered earlier, and Maya had just shushed him, her stomach churning. "Do you, Henry Grayson, take Maya Jackson to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the clerk asked, barely looking up from his clipboard. "I do," Henry said, his voice steady, that Georgia drawl wrapping around the words like warm honey. He didn't look at her, just kept his hands clasped in front of him, a gold watch glinting on his wrist. "And you, Maya Jackson, do you take Henry Grayson to be your lawfully wedded husband?" She swallowed hard, her throat dry as the asphalt outside. Every instinct screamed at her to run, out the door, back to her Walmart register, back to a life that made sense. But then she glanced at Jamal, his skinny frame hunched, his cough still lingering from the last hospital visit. She thought of Darius King's last threat, scrawled on a napkin slipped under their apartment door. "Pay up, or I start with the girl." Henry's deal was crazy, but it was a lifeline. Debt gone, Jamal's meds paid, Darius off their backs. All for a signature and a ring she didn't even want. "I do," she mumbled, barely audible. The clerk didn't care. He just stamped the papers and waved them off. No kiss, no applause, just a quick nod from Henry and a congratulations that sounded like it was on autopilot. Linda rushed over, pulling Maya into a hug that smelled of cigarette smoke and cheap perfume. "You didn't have to do this, baby," she whispered, voice cracking. Maya pulled back, forcing a smile. "It's fine, Mama. We're good now." Jamal tugged her sleeve. "He gonna hurt you, sis?" "Nah," she said, ruffling his hair. "He's just weird. I'll be okay." Henry stood by the door, holding it open, his face unreadable. "Ready?" he asked, and she nodded, even though she wasn't. Not even close. The drive to Henry's place was quiet, the hum of his sleek black Mercedes cutting through the Atlanta dusk. Maya stared out the window, watching the city blur by. Neon signs, strip malls, the glow of downtown fading into the distance. Her backpack sat heavy on her lap, stuffed with a few clothes and her Walmart name tag. She'd told her manager she needed a week off, but the truth was, she didn't know if she'd ever go back. Not like this. Henry's mansion in Buckhead was like something out of a movie. Big white columns, a lawn that looked mowed with nail clippers, and windows that sparkled even in the dark. She stepped out of the car, sneakers crunching on gravel, feeling like a stray dog wandering into a palace. "This is home now," Henry said, unlocking the front door. The foyer alone was bigger than her entire apartment, with a chandelier dripping crystals and a staircase that curved like it was showing off. "Home," she echoed, the word tasting foreign. "Right." He led her upstairs to a bedroom that smelled of fresh paint and lavender. A four-poster bed dominated the space, piled with pillows she'd bet cost more than her monthly rent. A dresser held a vase of roses, their petals blood-red against the white walls. "This is yours," Henry said, setting her backpack on a chair. "Bathrooms through there, closet stocked. Get settled." She blinked, waiting for the catch. "Where are you sleeping?" "Down the hall," he said, pointing vaguely. "I don't expect anything. Not like that." Her shoulders relaxed a fraction, but she kept her guard up. "So what do you expect, huh?" "I'm here." I said the words. "What's next?" He looked at her then, really looked, and for a second, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or longing. "Just give it time, kid," he said softly. "That's all I'm asking." He left her there, the door clicking shut behind him. She sank onto the bed, the mattress so soft it felt like it was swallowing her. The silence was loud, broken only by the distant hum of an air conditioner. She kicked off her sneakers, still wearing the thrift store dress, and curled up, clutching her backpack like a lifeline. What the hell had she done? 3 days later, Maya was still walking on eggshells. The mansion was too big, too quiet, like living in a museum where she was afraid to touch anything. She'd gone back to Walmart for a shift the day after the wedding, needing the noise of the registers to drown out her thoughts. The customers were the same, rude, impatient, tossing their groceries like she was a robot. But the blue vest felt heavier now, like it was mocking her new life. She hadn't told anyone about Henry, not even Tony, her best friend from the stockroom. "How do you explain marrying a millionaire who barely talks to you?" Henry was weird, not creepy exactly, but intense. He'd show up in the kitchen every morning, pouring coffee into a mug that said "World's Okayest Boss," asking her how she slept like they were roommates. He'd leave her alone most of the day, disappearing into his office or out to meetings, but he'd always be there at dinner, setting out plates of takeout, pizza one night, barbecue ribs the next. "You gotta eat," he'd say, sliding a plate her way, and she'd pick at it, watching him like he might sprout horns. That third night, everything shifted. She'd come home from Walmart, her feet screaming after a 9-hour shift, the smell of fried chicken from a customer's order still clinging to her hair. Henry was in the living room, a glass of bourbon in his hand, the TV muted on some Braves game. He looked up as she walked in, his eyes catching hers in a way that made her freeze. "Rough day?" he asked, setting the glass down. "Same old," she said, kicking off her sneakers by the door. "People yelling 'cause their coupons don't work. You know, glamorous stuff." He chuckled, a low rumble that warmed the room. "You're tougher than most, kid. I can tell." She shrugged, not sure what to say to that. He stood, crossing to a box on the coffee table, and pulled out a folded piece of red fabric. "Got something for you," he said, holding it out. "Try it on." She took it, wary, unfolding a dress. Silk, soft as a whisper. The kind of thing you'd see in a magazine, not a Walmart break room. "What's this for?" she asked, running her fingers over the smooth fabric. "Just thought it'd look good on you," he said, his voice softer now, almost shy. "Go on. Humor me." She hesitated, then headed to her room, the dress draped over her arm. When she slipped it on, it hugged her curves like it was made for her, the deep red glowing against her dark skin. She looked in the mirror, barely recognizing herself. No Walmart vest, no hairnet, just Maya. Not the cashier, not the broke kid, but a woman who could turn heads. When she walked back downstairs, Henry was waiting, and the way he looked at her stopped her cold. His eyes darkened, his jaw tightening like he was fighting something inside. "Jesus," he breathed, stepping closer. "You're a damn vision, Maya." Her heart kicked up, a mix of nerves and something else, something hot and unfamiliar. He moved in, close enough that she could smell his cologne, cedar and spice, and feel the warmth radiating off him. His hand brushed her waist, light at first, then firmer, pulling her just a fraction closer. "You don't know what you do to me," he murmured, his voice rough, like he was confessing a sin. She should have pulled away, should have told him to back off, to stop playing whatever game this was. But her body had other ideas. Her breath hitched, her skin tingling where his fingers pressed against the silk. Before she could think, his lips were on hers, slow at first, testing, then deeper, hungrier. He tasted like bourbon and want, his stubble grazing her chin, sending sparks down her spine. Her hands found his chest, gripping his shirt, and for a moment, she kissed him back, hard, like she was drowning and he was air. Then reality slammed into her. She jerked back, panting, her lips still buzzing. "What the hell was that?" she snapped, stepping away, her hands shaking. Henry froze, his eyes wide, like he'd just woken up from a dream. "I'm sorry," he said, voice hoarse. "I didn't mean to. Damn it, Maya, I shouldn't have." "Yeah, you shouldn't," she shot back, her heart pounding so loud she could hear it. "I ain't your toy, Henry. You don't get to just do that." "I know," he said, running a hand through his silver hair, looking like he wanted to punch himself. "I got carried away. It won't happen again. Not till you're ready." "Ready?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "You think I'm ever going to be ready for this? I'm here 'cause I had to be, not 'cause I want you." He flinched, just a little, but enough for her to notice. "Fair enough," he said quietly. "Get some rest, kid. Long day tomorrow." He turned and walked out, leaving her standing there, the red dress suddenly feeling too tight, too heavy. She stormed upstairs, slamming her bedroom door, her mind a mess. Why had she kissed him back? Why did her body feel like it was betraying her? And why the hell did his touch linger like a brand on her skin? She peeled off the dress, tossing it onto a chair, and crawled into bed, still in her Walmart undershirt. The mansion was quiet, but her thoughts were loud, screaming questions she didn't have answers for. Who was Henry Grayson, really? And what did he want from her that he wasn't saying? Maya Jackson slumped against the counter at Walmart, the beep of the barcode scanner drilling into her skull like a jackhammer. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, washing out the Atlanta night pressing against the store's glass doors. Her blue vest hung loose on her frame, the name tag, Maya, cashier, crooked from a long shift. She'd been back at work for 2 days since the wedding, and every minute felt like wading through mud. Customers shoved their groceries at her, cans of soup, frozen pizzas, diapers, muttering complaints about prices or expired coupons. She forced a smile, her lips tight, but her mind was somewhere else. It was back in that mansion, replaying that kiss with Henry Grayson. Her fingers fumbled a pack of gum, nearly dropping it. "Come on, girl, move it!" A guy in a trucker hat snapped, tapping his foot. She bit back a retort, scanning faster, her dark curls slipping from her hairnet and sticking to her sweaty forehead. The clock above the registers read 9:45 p.m., 15 minutes till closing, then a cold bus ride back to Henry's palace in Buckhead, not home. She couldn't call it that, not with the way her stomach twisted every time she thought of him. That damn red dress was still in her closet, folded like a secret she didn't want to touch. She hadn't worn it since that night, hadn't even looked at it. But she could still feel Henry's hands on her waist, the heat of his lips, the way her body had leaned into him before her brain caught up. It pissed her off. How she'd wanted it, even for a second. He was 60, rich, white, and married to her for reasons he wouldn't explain. She wasn't supposed to want him. She was supposed to hate him. "Hey, you okay?" Tony's voice cut through her thoughts. Her best friend, a stocky woman with a buzz cut and a Walmart vest of her own, leaned against the next register, wiping her hands on her jeans. Tony had worked the stockroom for years, always quick with a laugh or a cuss-out for rude customers. "You been zoning out all night, girl?" "I'm fine," Maya lied, shoving a loaf of bread into a bag. "Just tired." "Uh-huh." Tony raised an eyebrow, her gold hoop earrings catching the light. "You sure it ain't that rich dude you're living with? What's his name? Henry?" Maya froze, her hand hovering over a jar of pickles. She hadn't told Tony about the marriage, hadn't told anyone, but word spreads fast in a neighborhood like theirs. "Who said anything about a rich dude?" she asked, keeping her voice low. "Come on, Maya. People talk. Saw you getting some fancy-ass car after your shift the other day. What's the deal?" "No deal," she said, too quick. "Just helping him out." "Rent's paid, that's all," Tony snorted. "Rent, my ass. You don't move into Buckhead for free. Spill it or I'm telling Leon you're dodging him." Maya's chest tightened at the mention of Leon, her old crush, the guy who'd been texting her since high school, begging for a date. "Don't you dare," she hissed, but Tony just grinned, tossing a roll of receipt paper at her. "Fine, keep your secrets, but you look like you're carrying the world, girl. Call me if you need to vent." Maya nodded, turning back to the next customer, but Tony's words stuck. She wasn't fine. She was a mess, and Henry Grayson was the reason why. Back at the mansion, the air smelled of cedar and money. Maya kicked off her sneakers by the front door, her feet throbbing from standing all day. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that made you feel like you were trespassing. She padded to the kitchen, hoping to grab a soda and crash, but Henry was there, leaning against the counter in a black sweater and jeans, a glass of bourbon in his hand. The sleeves were rolled up, showing off forearms corded with muscle, too strong for a guy his age, like he'd spent his life building more than just bank accounts. "You're late," he said, not looking up from his glass. His voice was low, that Georgia drawl wrapping around her like a blanket she didn't want. "Walmart don't close early for me," she shot back, opening the fridge. "Some of us gotta work." He chuckled, a sound that warmed the room despite her mood. "Fair enough. You eat yet?" "Not hungry," she said, grabbing a Coke and popping the tab. The fizz hissed, loud in the silence. She leaned against the opposite counter, keeping the island between them, her Walmart vest still on like armor. Henry set his glass down, his eyes finally meeting hers. "You look beat, kid. Long shift?" "Always is." She took a sip, the cold soda biting her throat. "Why you care?" "'Cause you're here," he said simply, like it was obvious. "And I don't want you running yourself into the ground." She snorted, rolling her eyes. "Yeah, right. You just want your trophy wife looking shiny, huh?" His jaw tightened, just a flicker, but she caught it. "That what you think this is?" he asked, stepping around the island, closing the distance. Some game where I dress you up and show you off? Ain't it? She challenged, her pulse kicking up as he stopped a foot away. You got me in your big house, buying me dresses, acting like you own me. What else am I supposed to think? He looked at her, long and hard, his blue eyes searching her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You're not a trophy, Maya, he said, voice low. Hell, I don't even know how to explain it, but I ain't trying to own you. Then why'd you kiss me? The words slipped out before she could stop them, sharp and raw. Her cheeks burned, but she held his gaze, daring him to lie. He exhaled, running a hand through his silver hair. Because I couldn't help it, he admitted, his voice rougher now. You were standing there in that dress, looking like you could burn the world down, and I lost my damn head. It was a mistake. A mistake, she echoed, the word stinging more than it should have. So what? You just felt sorry for me? Poor little Walmart girl gotta throw her a bone? No, he said, stepping closer, close enough that she could smell the bourbon on his breath. It wasn't pity. It was you. The way you move, the way you talk, the way you don't let this world break you. I see you, Maya, and it's driving me crazy. Her breath caught, her heart pounding so loud she was sure he could hear it. She wanted to shove him away, to yell, to run, but her feet stayed glued to the floor, her body tingling under his gaze. You don't know me, she whispered, but it sounded weak, like she was trying to convince herself. I want to, he said, his hand lifting like he might touch her, then dropping back to his side. If you'll let me. She didn't know what to say to that, so she turned, muttering, I'm going to bed, and fled upstairs, her Coke forgotten on the counter. Her room was a sanctuary, the door locking behind her with a soft click. She sank onto the bed, still in her Walmart vest, her mind spinning. Why did his words hit so hard? Why did she care what he thought? The next morning, Maya overslept, waking to sunlight streaming through her window and the smell of bacon drifting upstairs. She stumbled down to the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes, and found Henry at the stove, flipping pancakes like he was auditioning for a cooking show. He looked normal, in a gray t-shirt and jeans, his hair a little messy, like he hadn't bothered with a comb. Morning, he said, glancing over with a half smile. Hungry? She hesitated, then slid onto a bar stool, her stomach growling despite herself. You cook? She asked, skeptical. Man's gotta eat, he said, sliding a plate of pancakes and bacon her way. Dig in. She took a bite, the pancakes fluffy and sweet, and damn if it wasn't the best thing she'd eaten in weeks. All right, not bad, she admitted, and he chuckled, pouring himself coffee. They ate in silence for a bit, the clink of forks against plates the only sound. It was weirdly comfortable, like they were just two people sharing breakfast, not whatever they were. But then she noticed a box on the counter, small, wooden, carved with intricate patterns. What's that? She asked, nodding at it. Henry's face changed, just for a second, a shadow passing over his eyes. Just some old stuff, he said, too casual. Nothing important. She didn't buy it. Something about that box screamed secrets, and Maya wasn't one to let things slide. That night, after Henry left for a late meeting, she crept into his office, her heart pounding like she was breaking into Fort Knox. The box was on a shelf, unlocked, and when she opened it, her breath caught. Inside was a stack of photos, black and white, faded, of a woman who looked like her twin, same dark skin, same big eyes, same stubborn set to her jaw. Evelyn, the name scrawled on the back in Henry's handwriting. There was a journal too, pages worn thin, and she flipped it open, her hands shaking. She's Evelyn reborn, he'd written, the ink fresh, like he'd jotted it yesterday. Every time I look at her, I see my heart staring back. But she's not her. She's more, and I'm drowning in it. Maya slammed the journal shut, her chest tight, her eyes burning. He'd married her because she was a ghost, a stand-in for his dead wife. All that talk about seeing her, wanting her, it was bullshit. She was just a replacement, a Walmart knockoff of the real thing. Rage boiled up, hot and sharp, and she stormed to her room, grabbing her backpack. She didn't care about the deal, the money, the mansion. She wasn't staying here to play pretend. She was halfway out the door when headlights swept across the driveway. Henry's car. She froze, her hand on the knob as he stepped inside, his suit rumpled, his face tired. "Maya," he said, frowning. "Where are you going?" "You lied to me," she spat, her voice shaking with fury. "This whole thing, it's about her, ain't it? Evelyn, I found your damn journal." His face fell, like she'd punched him. "Maya, wait." "No!" She cut him off, stepping closer, her finger jabbing at his chest. "You married me 'cause I look like your dead wife. I ain't her, Henry. I'm not some picture you can frame and feel better about." "I know you're not," he said, his voice low, urgent. "Listen to me, Maya. Yeah, I saw her in you at first. I ain't gonna lie about that. But that's not why I'm here now. You're different, stronger, fiercer, alive in ways she never was. I'm not chasing a ghost. I'm chasing you." "Bullshit," she snapped, but her voice cracked, doubt creeping in. His eyes were so damn earnest, like he was begging her to believe him. "Give me a chance to prove it," he said, stepping closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth. "Don't run. Not yet." She stood there, torn, her backpack heavy on her shoulder. Part of her wanted to bolt, to Tony's place, to Leon's, anywhere but here. But another part, small and stupid, wanted to stay, wanted to see if he was telling the truth. "One chance," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't make me regret it." He nodded, relief washing over his face. "I won't." She turned and headed upstairs, her heart still racing, his words echoing in her head. But as she reached her room, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You think you're safe with him? Ask about Darius. Time's running out." Her blood ran cold. Darius King wasn't done with her family, and now she wasn't sure who she could trust, Henry or her own gut. The air in the Walmart break room smelled like burnt coffee and stale donuts, a faint hum of the vending machine buzzing in the corner. Maya Jackson slumped in a plastic chair, her blue vest crumpled beside her, her dark curls spilling out of her hairnet after a brutal morning shift. It was 3 days since she'd found Henry's journal, since that text from Darius King, or whoever the hell it was, lit a fire under her already frayed nerves. She hadn't slept right since, her mind a tangle of anger, doubt, and something she didn't want to name. Her phone sat heavy in her pocket, the message still unanswered. "You think you're safe with him? Ask about Darius. Time's running out." She rubbed her eyes, the fluorescent lights stinging them raw. Her shift had been hell. Spilled milk in aisle 6, a lady screaming about a coupon, and a kid who'd puked on her register. Normally, she'd shrug it off, crack a joke with Tony, and keep moving. But today, every beep of the scanner felt like a countdown to something she couldn't outrun. Henry's words kept looping in her head. "I'm not chasing a ghost. I'm chasing you." She wanted to believe him. God, part of her did. But the journal, the photos, that damn red dress, it all screamed she was a stand-in for Evelyn, his lost love. "Hey, Earth to Maya." Tony's voice snapped her out of it. Her friend plopped down across the table, a bag of chips in hand, her Walmart vest slung over her shoulder. "You look like you got hit by a truck. What's up?" Maya forced a smirk, snagging a chip. "Just tired. You know how it is." Bull, Tony said, crunching loudly. You've been off since you started shacking up with that rich guy. Henry, right? Spill it, girl, or I'm calling Leon to drag it out of you. Maya's stomach flipped at Leon's name. She hadn't seen him since that night at the bar, when he'd kissed her in a haze of beer and desperation, begging her to ditch Henry and come back to him. She'd pushed him off, told him she needed space, but the memory still stung. Ain't nothing to spill, she lied, popping the chip in her mouth. Just figuring shit out. Tony narrowed her eyes, but before she could push, the break room door swung open. Maya's manager, a wiry guy named Carl, poked his head in. Jackson, you're back on in 5, and your mom's out front making a scene. Better handle it. Maya groaned, hauling herself up. Great. Just what I need. She found Linda in the parking lot, pacing by the cart return, her thin frame wrapped in a faded jacket. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red-rimmed, and the smell of vodka hit Maya before she even got close. Mama, what the hell? She said, crossing her arms. You can't just show up like this. Linda spun around, her hand shaking. They burned it, Maya. The store. Our store. It's gone. Maya's heart dropped. What store? What are you talking about? The corner shop. Linda's voice cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. The one your daddy left us. It's all we had left. And now it's ash. Darius did it. I know he did. The corner shop wasn't much. A tiny bodega on the edge of their neighborhood, shuttered since her dad split, but it was theirs, a piece of history Linda clung to like a lifeline. Maya grabbed her mom's shoulders, steadying her. Slow down. When did this happen? Last night, Linda sobbed. I went by to check on it and it was just gone. Smoke everywhere, fire trucks, people yelling. They're saying it's arson, Maya. Darius, he's mad 'cause Henry paid him off, and now he's coming for us. Maya's blood ran cold. Darius King. That text wasn't a bluff. He was hitting back, and hard. Go home, Mama, she said, her voice tight. Lock the door. I'll figure this out. Linda nodded, stumbling off toward the bus stop, and Maya stood there, the humid Atlanta air pressing down on her. She pulled out her phone, staring at the message again. Ask about Darius. Henry knew more than he was letting on. She could feel it. And she was done waiting for answers. The sun was dipping low when Maya got back to the mansion, the sky streaked with orange and pink over Buckhead's manicured lawns. She'd called off the rest of her shift, something she never did, but this couldn't wait. Her sneakers slapped the hardwood as she stormed inside, finding Henry in the backyard, a shovel in his hands. He was digging up a patch of dirt near the patio, his gray t-shirt soaked with sweat, his silver hair sticking to his forehead. The sight threw her off. Henry Grayson, millionaire, digging like a damn gardener. What the hell you doing? She asked, stopping at the glass door. He looked up, wiping his brow with his sleeve. Planting something, he said, nodding at a bag of bulbs on the table. Tulips. Thought it'd brighten the place up. She stared, her anger faltering for a second. You're out here playing farmer while my family's falling apart? He straightened, the shovel clattering to the ground. What's wrong? Darius burned down our store, she said, her voice shaking. The one my dad left us. It's gone, Henry. And I got a text saying you know more than you're telling me. So start talking. His face hardened, his blue eyes narrowing. A text? From who? Don't know. Unknown number. Said I'm not safe with you. Told me to ask about Darius. She stepped closer, her hands balled into fists. What's he got on you, Henry? Why's he still coming after us when you paid him? Henry exhaled, long and slow, like he was letting out a breath he'd held for years. Come inside, he said, brushing dirt off his hands. We need to talk." She followed him to the kitchen, the air cool and sharp with the scent of lemon cleaner. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, sliding one to her, but she didn't touch it. "Spill it," she said, crossing her arms. "No more half answers." He leaned against the counter, his shoulders slumping. "Darius and I go back," he started, his voice low. "Years ago, when I was building my business, he ran the streets. Loans, protection, whatever got him cash. I borrowed from him once, early on, to keep a deal afloat. Paid him back, but he never forgets a face. When I saw you at Walmart, heard he was circling your family, I knew he'd take you if I didn't step in." "Take me?" she snapped. "What am I, a damn prize?" "To him, yeah," Henry said, his jaw tight. "He's got a network. Girls go missing, end up God knows where. I couldn't let that happen. Not again." "Again?" She caught the word, her eyes narrowing. "What's that mean?" He hesitated, then met her gaze. "Evelyn, my wife. She got tangled with guys like him. Not Darius, but the same type. She was young, like you, working a dead-end job, trying to survive. I met her too late. Couldn't pull her out before the cancer took her. When I saw you, I saw her. Yeah, I ain't denying that. But it's more now, Maya. I'm in this 'cause I can't stand the thought of losing you too." Her throat tightened, his words hitting like a punch. "So you married me to save me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not 'cause you wanted me." "I wanted you safe," he said, stepping closer. "But wanting you? That came after. Every day, watching you fight, hearing you laugh, seeing you walk in that door. It's you I want, Maya, not her." She looked away, her chest aching. She wanted to believe him, but the fire, the text, Darius, it was all too much. "He's not stopping," she said finally. "Burning the store's just the start. What's next? My mom? Jamal?" "I'll handle it," he said, his voice firm. "I've got people, lawyers, contacts. Darius won't touch you." "Handle it?" She laughed, bitter. "You can't even handle me figuring out who you are." He flinched, but before he could respond, she turned, heading for the stairs. "I need air," she muttered, leaving him standing there, the water bottle sweating on the counter. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. The mansion was too quiet, the bed too soft, her mind too loud. She slipped downstairs, barefoot, the hardwood cool under her feet. The kitchen was dark, but a light glowed from the backyard. She peeked out. Henry was still there, under the patio lights, digging. His shirt was off now, his back glistening with sweat, muscles flexing as he drove the shovel into the earth. He looked alive, raw, like a man fighting something bigger than dirt. She stepped outside, the night air humid and thick. "You're gonna kill yourself out here," she called, crossing her arms. He looked up, startled, then grinned, wiping his face with his shirt. "Keeps me sane," he said, tossing the shovel aside. "You okay?" "No," she admitted, stepping closer. "But I'm here." He nodded, like that was enough, and for a moment, they just stood there, the crickets chirping around them. Then, without thinking, she closed the gap, her hands finding his chest, still warm from the work. "Prove it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Prove it's me you want." His eyes darkened, a storm brewing behind them. "Maya," he started, but she cut him off, pressing her lips to his. It wasn't slow this time. It was fire, need, a collision of everything she'd been holding back. He groaned, his hands sliding to her hips, lifting her against him. She wrapped her legs around his waist and he stumbled back, pinning her to the patio table. The world blurred, his shirt hit the ground, her tank top followed, the cool wood against her back a shock against his heat. His lips were everywhere, her neck, her collarbone, her chest, his stubble scraping her skin, sending shivers through her. She tugged at his jeans, her fingers clumsy with want, and he kicked them off, his breath ragged. When he pressed into her, it was hard, fast, a release of all the tension between them. She gasped, clinging to him, her nails digging into his shoulders as they moved together, the table creaking under their weight. "God, Maya," he panted, his voice breaking, and she answered with a moan, her body arching into his. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, messy, real. When they finished, collapsing against each other, the night air cooled their sweat-slicked skin, and she buried her face in his neck, breathing him in, cedar, earth, and him. "I'm scared," she whispered, her voice small against his chest. "I know," he said, holding her tighter. "But I've got you." She pulled back, looking into his eyes, and for the first time, she believed him. Just a little. But as they sat there, tangled in the dark, her phone buzzed on the table. Another text. "He can't protect you forever. Watch your back." Her heart sank. Darius wasn't done, and whatever Henry promised, this fight was far from over. The fluorescent hum of Walmart felt like a drill in Maya Jackson's skull as she scanned a pack of ramen noodles, her hands moving on autopilot. It was a week since that night in the backyard with Henry Grayson, since the table, the heat, the way they'd crashed into each other like they were running out of time. Her blue vest hung loose, the name tag, Maya, cashier, tilted from a shift that wouldn't end. The store smelled of spilled soda and desperation, the Atlanta heat seeping through the glass doors even at 8 p.m. Her dark curls stuck to her neck, sweat beading under her hairnet, but her mind wasn't on the job. It was on that text. "He can't protect you forever. Watch your back." She'd shown it to Henry the next morning, her hands shaking as she shoved her phone in his face over breakfast. He'd gone quiet, his jaw tight, his coffee mug forgotten on the counter. "I'll take care of it," he'd said, voice low, but his eyes had that haunted look again, like he was staring at a ghost he couldn't shake. She'd wanted to believe him, wanted to trust the man who'd held her like she was his lifeline, but doubt gnawed at her. Darius King wasn't some punk you could scare off with a check and a stern word. He was a shadow, a threat that kept creeping closer. "Hey, you deaf or what?" a customer barked, snapping her back. A middle-aged woman with bleach blonde hair glared at her, tapping a carton of eggs. "I said bag 'em separate." "Sorry," Maya muttered, grabbing a plastic bag, her fingers clumsy. She shoved the eggs in, her chest tight, and moved on to the next item. Canned tuna, toothpaste, a gossip mag. The woman huffed, muttering something about lazy kids, but Maya barely heard. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and her stomach dropped. Another text? She couldn't check. Not now, not with the line stretching back to aisle 3. When her break finally hit at 9, she bolted to the break room, collapsing into a chair. The air smelled of burnt popcorn and Tony's vape, but it was empty. Thank God. She yanked her phone out, her heart pounding as she opened the message. Not Darius this time. It was Linda. "Maya, we're in trouble. Darius sent papers. They're taking the house. Come home now." Her breath caught, her hands trembling so bad she nearly dropped the phone. Papers? Taking the house? Henry had paid off the debt. Darius wasn't supposed to have a leg to stand on. She dialed Linda, her mom picking up on the second ring, voice slurred and panicked. "Baby, they're saying we owe more. Interest, late fees, some bullshit I don't understand. There's a notice on the door. Eviction, Maya. Where's Henry? He said he'd fix this." "Calm down, Mama," Maya said, though her own voice shook. "I'm coming. Stay put, okay?" She hung up, her mind racing. Henry had promised. He'd sworn Darius was handled. Had he lied? Or had he screwed up? Either way, her family was paying the price, and she was done waiting for him to play savior. She grabbed her backpack, clocked out early, Carl could fire her for all she cared, and caught the next bus to the old neighborhood. The apartment building loomed in the dusk, its peeling paint and busted windows a stark contrast to Henry's Buckhead mansion. Maya's sneakers slapped the cracked stairs, her breath hitching as she reached their unit. The door was ajar, a yellow eviction notice taped crookedly to the wood, the words, "Final Warning," screaming in bold red. Inside, Linda sat on the couch, a half-empty bottle of vodka in her lap, tears streaking her face. Jamal huddled beside her, his skinny arms wrapped around a pillow, eyes wide and scared. "Maya," he cried, jumping up to hug her. She squeezed him tight, her heart breaking at how small he felt. "What happened?" she demanded, turning to Linda. "Tell me everything." Linda sniffled, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "Some guy came by this morning, big, mean-looking, like Darius's crew. Dropped off these papers, said we're out by Friday if we don't pay 10 grand. 10 grand, Maya. Henry said the debt was gone. Where's this coming from?" Maya snatched the notice, scanning it fast. Legal jargon about back interest, penalties, a loan Linda swore she'd never signed. Her blood boiled. Darius was playing dirty, digging up old dirt or forging new lies to keep his claws in them. And Henry, where the hell was he in all this? "I'll fix it," she said, stuffing the paper in her bag. "Stay here, lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." Linda nodded, dazed, and Jamal clung to her hand. "You gonna get Henry?" he asked, voice small. "Yeah," she said, though she wasn't sure what she'd do when she found him. "I'll get him." The bus ride to Buckhead was a blur, the city lights streaking past like tears she wouldn't let fall. By the time she stormed into the mansion, the clock in the foyer read 10:30 p.m. Henry was in the living room, sprawled on the couch with a bourbon in hand, the TV flickering some late-night news show. He looked up as she barged in, her Walmart vest still on, her face a storm of fury. "Maya?" He sat up, setting the glass down. "What's wrong?" "This!" she shouted, throwing the eviction notice at him. It fluttered to the floor, landing between them like a grenade. "Darius is taking our house. Says we owe 10 grand more. You told me it was done, Henry. You told me we were safe." He stood, his face paling as he picked up the paper, scanning it quick. "Son of a bitch," he muttered, his jaw clenching. "He's pulling some scam, piling on fake charges. I paid him clean, Maya, I swear." "Then why's this happening?" she yelled, stepping closer, her hands shaking. "My mom's a wreck. Jamal's terrified, and I'm out here busting my ass at Walmart while you sit sipping your damn bourbon. You said you'd handle it." "I thought I did," he said, his voice rising to match hers. "I gave him the money. Got my lawyer to draft it tight. He's screwing us, forging shit to keep you on the hook." "On the hook?" She laughed, sharp and bitter. "I'm not the one who owes him. You are. You dragged me into this, Henry. You and your big promises, your big house, your big savior act, none of it's real." "It's real, damn it," he shot back, closing the gap between them. "I'm in this for you, Maya, not some game, not some debt. You think I'd let him touch you? Touch Jamal?" "Then why's he still coming?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "Why's my family losing everything while you're safe up here?" He grabbed her shoulders, his grip firm but not rough. "Because he's a snake, and I underestimated him. But I'm not letting this stand. I'll fix it. Tonight, tomorrow, whatever it takes." She shoved him off, her chest heaving. "I don't need your fixes. I don't need your money, your house, your... whatever this is." She gestured between them, her eyes burning. "I'm not your charity case, Henry. I'm done." She turned to leave, her backpack slung over her shoulder, but his voice stopped her cold. "You're not charity," he said, low and raw. "You're everything I've got left to fight for." She froze, her hand on the door, his words slicing through her anger. She wanted to keep running, to Tony's, to Leon's, anywhere but here, but her feet wouldn't move, and the silence stretched heavy and thick. "I'm going," she said finally, not looking back. "Figure your shit out, Henry. I can't do this anymore." She stepped into the night, the humid air hitting her like a slap. The bus stop was a half-mile walk, and she trudged it, her sneakers scuffing the pavement, her mind a mess. She'd meant it. She was done. Done with his promises, done with the way he made her feel, done with the heat that still lingered from that night on the table. But as she reached the stop, rain started falling, fat drops splattering her vest, and her phone buzzed again. Another text. "Leaving won't save them. Ask him about the deal." Her gut twisted. What deal? She stared at the screen, rain streaking it, then shoved it in her pocket. She couldn't face Henry, not yet, but she couldn't run either, not with Jamal and Linda hanging in the balance. The rain was a full-on downpour by the time she reached Piedmont Park, a mile from the mansion, her clothes soaked through. She ducked under a pavilion, the city lights blurred through the storm, her breath fogging in the cool air. She was shivering, her Walmart uniform clinging to her skin, when headlights cut through the dark. Henry's Mercedes rolled up, slow, the wipers swishing. He stepped out, rain plastering his shirt to his chest, his silver hair dripping as he walked toward her. "Maya," he called, voice hoarse over the storm. "Get in the car." "No," she said, crossing her arms, though her teeth chattered. "I told you, I'm done." He stopped a few feet away, water streaming down his face. "I know you're mad. I know I fucked up, but I'm not letting you walk away like this, not in this mess, not with Darius out there." "You don't get to decide that," she shouted, stepping into the rain, her voice cracking. "You don't get to keep saving me when it's your mess dragging us down." "It's not just mine," he said, his voice breaking. "It's ours now, Maya. I thought I could fix it alone, but I can't. I need you to stay, to fight this with me." She stared at him, rain blurring her vision, his words hitting harder than the cold. "Why me?" she asked, softer now, almost lost in the storm. "Why's it gotta be me?" He closed the distance, dropping to his knees in the mud, his hands gripping her hips. "Because I don't give a damn about Evelyn anymore," he said, voice raw, eyes locked on hers. "It's you I see, you I want, you I can't lose. I'm begging you, Maya, don't go." Her breath hitched, tears mixing with the rain. He looked broken, desperate, a man stripped bare in a way she'd never seen. She wanted to hate him, to walk away, but her hands found his face, trembling as they brushed his wet skin. "You're an idiot," she whispered, pulling him up. He stood, pulling her against him, and their lips met, hard, urgent, tasting of rain and salt. The storm raged, but they didn't care. He lifted her, her legs wrapping around him, and stumbled toward a nearby shed, kicking the door open. Inside, it smelled of damp wood and gasoline, but it was dry, and that's all that mattered. Her back hit the wall, his hands tearing at her soaked vest, her uniform top following. She yanked his shirt off, her fingers digging into his shoulders, and they crashed together, skin on skin, heat on heat, a frantic, messy collision. "God, Maya," he groaned, his voice shaking as he pressed into her, the wall creaking behind them. She gasped, clinging to him, her body arching as they moved, rain pounding the roof like a drumbeat. It was wild, raw, a release of everything, anger, fear, need. When they finished, collapsing against each other, her head rested on his chest, his heartbeat thumping under her ear. "I'm still mad," she murmured, her voice soft against his skin. "I know," he said, kissing her forehead, "but I've got you." She nodded, too tired to fight anymore. The rain slowed, a distant rumble fading, but the storm inside her wasn't over. Darius was still out there, and whatever deal he'd hinted at loomed like a shadow. She'd stayed, for now, but trust was a thread, and it was fraying fast. The morning after the storm broke over Atlanta like a fever finally letting go. Maya Jackson woke up tangled in Henry Grayson's arms, the sheets of his Buckhead mansion bed clinging to her damp skin. The shed last night, the rain, the wall, the way they'd crashed into each other, felt like a dream. But the ache in her muscles and the warmth of his chest against her back were real. Too real. She shifted, her dark curls spilling across the pillow, and his arm tightened around her waist, his breath steady in her ear. For a second, she let herself stay there, the quiet hum of the AC drowning out the chaos in her head. But only for a second. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, shattering the moment. She reached for it, her heart kicking up as she saw Linda's name. "Maya, you gotta come quick." Her mom's voice crackled through, panicked and slurred. "They're here, Darius's guys. They're banging on the door, saying we're out today." Maya sat up, the sheet slipping off her shoulders. "What? I thought—" She glanced at Henry, who was awake now, his blue eyes sharp with alarm. "Stay put, Mama. Lock everything. I'm coming." She hung up, swinging her legs out of bed, her Walmart uniform still crumpled on the floor from last night. "Darius," she said, her voice tight as she yanked on her jeans. "He's at the apartment. We're out of time." Henry was up in a flash, pulling on a shirt, his silver hair a mess. "I'll drive," he said, grabbing his keys. "We'll fix this." "Fix it?" She spun on him, her hands shaking as she zipped her vest. "You keep saying that, Henry, but it's getting worse. Eviction papers, the store burning. Now this? What's he got left to take?" He grabbed her shoulders, his grip steady. "Me," he said, voice low. "He wants me, Maya. I'll end it today, I swear." She stared at him, his words sinking in, but there was no time to argue. They bolted to his Mercedes, the engine roaring as they peeled out of Buckhead, the morning sun glinting off the hood. Atlanta blurred past, strip malls, gas stations, the skyline fading into the haze. Her mind raced, replaying that text. Ask him about the deal. What deal? What hadn't he told her? The apartment building loomed ahead, a beat-up pickup truck parked crookedly out front, two guys in leather jackets pounding on the door. Maya recognized one, Darius's muscle, a guy with a scar across his cheek she'd seen lurking around the neighborhood. "Get away from there!" she shouted, jumping out before Henry could stop her. The scarred guy turned, smirking, his fist still raised. Well, look who's here. Little Miss Walmart, come to save the day." "Back off," Henry growled, stepping up beside her, his height towering over them. "You've got no claim here. The debt's paid." Scarface laughed, a harsh bark. "Paid? Oh, Grayson, you're dumber than you look. Darius says you owe interest. 20 grand now with penalties. And this dump?" He kicked the door, making it rattle. "It's ours till you cough it up." "That's bullshit," Maya snapped, her fists clenched. "We've got nothing left to give." "Then you're out," the other guy said, cracking his knuckles. "Darius don't play, sweetheart. Clock's ticking." Henry stepped forward, his voice cold as steel. "Tell Darius to meet me. Tonight, 8 p.m., the old warehouse on Fulton. We settle this, man to man." Scarface raised an eyebrow, then shrugged. "Your funeral, old man. We'll pass it on." They sauntered back to the truck, peeling out with a screech of tires, leaving the eviction notice flapping on the door. Maya turned to Henry, her chest heaving. "What the hell was that? You're meeting him? Alone?" "Not alone," he said, pulling her close. "You're with me, kid. But I need you to trust me. One last time." "Trust you?" She pulled back, her eyes blazing. "Every time I do, shit hits the fan. What's this deal he keeps hinting at, Henry? What aren't you telling me?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Let's get your mom and Jamal out of there. Then I'll tell you everything." They found Linda and Jamal inside, huddled on the couch, the apartment reeking of fear and stale smoke. Linda clutched a bottle, her hands trembling, while Jamal hugged his backpack, his eyes red. "Sis," he whispered, running to her. She held him tight, her heart breaking at his shaky breaths. "We're moving you," Henry said, grabbing a duffel from the closet. "A hotel downtown, my dime. Pack what you need." Linda blinked, dazed. "You're helping us?" "Yeah," he said, tossing clothes into the bag. "And I'm ending this today. Darius won't touch you again." Maya helped them pack. Jamal's notebooks, Linda's meds, a few shirts, her hands moving fast, her mind on Henry's promise. They checked into a cheap motel off Peachtree, the neon sign buzzing outside, and once Linda and Jamal were settled, Maya turned to him. "Talk," she said, crossing her arms. "Now." He sat on the edge of the bed, his shoulders slumping. "Years ago, when I was starting out, Darius bailed me out of a bad spot, loaned me cash to save a deal. I paid him back, but he kept tabs, said I owed him favors. When Evelyn got sick, he offered to help, money for treatments. But there was a catch. He wanted her involved. I said no, cut him off, but he never forgave me. When I saw you at Walmart, heard he was circling your family, I knew he'd pull the same shit. The deal was me stepping in, marrying you to keep you out of his hands." Maya's stomach twisted. "So this was about him all along? Not Evelyn?" "Evelyn's why I noticed you," he admitted, his voice rough. "You look like her. Same fire, same fight. But it's you I stayed for, Maya. Darius saw a chance to hit me where it hurts. Through you. I thought paying him would end it, but he's greedy. He's twisting the knife." She sank onto the bed, her head spinning. "And tonight? What's your plan?" "I've got proof," he said, pulling a USB drive from his pocket. "Records, loans, threats, shit he's done over the years. My lawyer's got copies, but I'm giving him this. He takes it, walks away, or it goes to the cops." "You think he'll just take it?" she asked, skeptical. "No," he said, meeting her eyes. "But I think he'll back off if he knows I'm not bluffing." She stared at the drive, then at him, his tired face, his steady hands. "I'm coming with you," she said, her voice firm. "This is my fight too." "Maya." "No," she cut him off. "You don't get to do this alone. We're in this together, right?" He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Together." The warehouse on Fulton Street was a skeleton of rust and shadows, the air thick with dust and the faint tang of oil. It was 8 p.m., the sky bruised purple, and Maya stood beside Henry, her Walmart vest swapped for a hoodie, her heart pounding. Darius King rolled up in a black SUV, stepping out with that same scarred thug trailing him. He was shorter than she'd expected, stocky, with a gold chain glinting against his dark shirt, but his eyes, cold, calculating, made her skin crawl. "Grayson," he said, his voice smooth as gravel. "You brought the wife. Cute." "Cut the shit," Henry said, holding up the USB. "This ends tonight. You've got no claim. Debt's paid, papers are fake. Take this, proof of every dirty deal you've done, and walk away, or it's with the cops by morning." Darius laughed, a low, ugly sound. "You think I'm scared of your little stick? I own this city, old man. You and your Walmart princess don't scare me." "Then you're dumber than I thought," Maya snapped, stepping forward. "You burned our store, threatened my family. You think I'm just gonna sit quiet? Take it, Darius, or I'll scream this to every news station in Atlanta." His smirk faltered, just for a second, and Henry pressed the advantage. "She's not bluffing, neither am I. You're done." Darius stared, his jaw working, then snatched the drive. "This better be the end, Grayson," he growled, backing toward the SUV. "Cross me again, and no fancy house'll save you." He peeled out, tires screeching, and Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Henry pulled her close, his arms strong around her shoulders. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft. "Yeah," she said, leaning into him. "We did it." Weeks later, the air in Buckhead smelled of fresh paint and hope. Maya stood in the new community center Henry had funded, a squat brick building near her old neighborhood, buzzing with kids laughing, their voices echoing off the walls. She'd kept her Walmart job, needed the grind, the normalcy, but she spent her off days here, helping Jamal and others like him with homework, dreaming big. The eviction was off, the debt buried. Darius a ghost who hadn't shown his face since that night. Henry was beside her, his arm brushing hers, a quiet pride in his eyes. "Looks good," he said, nodding at the mural Jamal had painted, a rocket blasting off, stars dotting the wall. "Yeah," she said, smiling. "It does." That night, back at the mansion, they didn't talk much. She came home from a late shift, her Walmart vest tossed on the couch, and found him in the kitchen, a beer in hand. "Hey," she said, kicking off her sneakers. "Hey," he replied, setting the bottle down. He crossed to her, his hands finding her hips, and she didn't pull away. Their kiss was slow this time, deep, a promise instead of a fight. He lifted her onto the counter, her legs wrapping around him, and they moved together, clothes peeling off, skin on skin, a rhythm that felt like home. "You're my fire," he murmured against her neck, and she laughed, soft and real. "And you're my damn home," she said, pulling him closer. Later, curled on the couch, the TV flickering some old movie, she found a letter in his jacket pocket, written that night in the rain. "If you leave, I'll still love you, not her shadow." She smiled, tucking it back, and nestled against him. Leon had texted her last week, a simple, "Take care." He'd moved on, and so had she. Linda was sober more days than not. Jamal dreaming of the stars. And Maya, well, she was here, with Henry, building something new. The past was gone. Evelyn, Darius, the fear. What stayed was them, messy and real. A love carved out of storms. And that's the end, folks. Did Maya and Henry's journey hit you in the feels? What was your favorite moment? Smash that subscribe button and drop a comment to let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this wild ride.